Welcome to my American History Notes, where I share with you some of the things I'm learning about American history. That I thought I had a good knowledge of it, but there's so many things that are just missing in my education. I'm going to share with you some of the things I've learned. We're on the subject of Native Americans. We was called Indians before, and notable ones that are significant. And already did one session on this, and this is my second one. So I wanted to let you know that I'm borrowing a lot of this information from a legacy.com website, and very, very interesting people I had no idea of. And that's the great thing about studying history and learning something new. So let's first talk about Angel Decorah. She died in 1919. She was born in 1871. She was a member of the Winnebago tribal nation, and she was raised on a reservation in Nebraska until she was 12. Then she was taken to an Indian boarding school, the Hampton Normal Agricultural Institute in Virginia. We don't know if her parents consented to this, but it wasn't uncommon for Native American children, Indian children, to be taken to government run English language boarding schools, which was they believed was needed to assimilate them into American culture. But she graduated from Smith College and went on to become a well known artist and a much sought after illustrator of books and magazines at the turn of the 20th century. Then there's Dr. Susan LaFleschepicotte. Born and she died in 1915, so she was 1865 to 1915. She became the first Native American doctor. She was a social reformer. She campaigned against alcohol and tuberculosis. She helped other Omaha Indians navigate the bureaucracy of the Office of Indian Affairs and get the money that owed them for the sale of their land. Then we come to a war chieftain, and we're going to talk more about some other war chieftains next time. But Geronimo, he died in 1909. I think he was like 80 years old. He was a prominent leader from the Bedonkohe band of the Chiricahua Apache tribe. By the way, I really, really recommend a book one of my favorite books in high school. Of course, my high school was a long time ago, called The Apache Chronicles. If you're interested in Native American history at all, um, this 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 book should be something that you want in your library. So it's called the Apache Chronicles, the story of the people by John Upton Terrell. So that's a that was it was put out in 1972. So anyway, that aside, let's get back to the list of people that I wanted to go over today. And now Geronimo, he joined with three other Chiricahua Apache bands, the Cheyenne, the Chokonin, and the Nedni, and he raided against U.S. military and Mexican military. He made military campaigns against them in the southwestern American territories of New Mexico and Arizona. In his old age, he would appear at fairs, including the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis, Missouri. He rode a Ferris wheel, sold photographs of himself as souvenirs. But as a celebrity, he was not allowed to return to the land of his birth. He died at Fort Siloka Hospital in 1909, still a prisoner of war. Red Cloud. He was a famous Oglala Lakota Sioux chieftain, and he led the band after the signing of the treaty at Fort Laramie in 1868 and to reservation life. And he outlived all other major leaders of the Indian Wars. He died in 1909 at age 88 on the Pine Ridge Reservation. He's quoted as saying in his old age, they made us many promises, more than I can remember, but they kept but one. They promised to take our land, and they took it. Then we have Edmonia Lewis. Here's one I never knew about. 1844 to 1907. She was the first woman mixed African American and Native American heritage. She achieved international fame and recognition as a sculptor. How about that? Then there was Chief Joseph, 1840 to 1904. Somebody had mentioned that they really liked him, knew about him. He led his people during the most tumultuous period in their history, when the Nez Perce were forcibly removed from their ancestral lands into a lower valley by the U.S. federal government and forced to move northeast into a significantly reduced reservation in Lapwai, Idaho. He's remembered as an advocate for peace, and it's said that he died of a broken heart. There's a lot of good literature out there about him. I believe he's the one who said, "I will fight no more forever." Um, I can look that up if I'm not mistaken. Chief Joseph, I will fight. No, I will fight. Yeah, it was Chief Joseph. Chief Joseph, according to the Google search. So It was in a speech he gave on October 5th, 1877, when the Nez Perce were forced to surrender to Colonel Nelson Miles and General O. Howard after the Battle of Bear Paw Mountains. So that's a speech he gave. It's important that you at least know about it. Now, then there's Sarah Winnemucca. She was born in 1844, died in 1891. She published a book, Life Among the Paiutes: Their Wrongs and Claims. She was considered the first known autobiography written by a Native American woman. When the Paiute people were interned in a concentration camp in Yakima, Washington after the Bannock War, Winnemucca traveled to Washington, D.C. to lobby for their release. She also served U.S. forces as a messenger, interpreter, and a guide, and as a teacher for imprisoned Indians. Sitting Bull, 1831 to 1890. He was a Hunkpapa Lakota Sioux holy man who led his people during years of resistance, and he was at the Battle of Little Bighorn. It's a George Armstrong Custer, his last stand. His troops attacked Sitting Bull's camp, and Sitting Bull's followers defeated him. And as Sitting Bull, as a holy man, had foreseen. There was Sequoyah, very good, important person. Hope you know about Sequoyah. Born about 1775, died in 1843. He was a Cherokee silversmith who created a Cherokee syllabary alphabet, making reading and writing in Cherokee possible. This is one of the very few times in recorded history that a member of a pre-literate people created an original, effective writing system. The people of the Cherokee Nation rapidly began to use the syllabary, adopting it in 1825, and their literacy rate quickly surpassed that of surrounding European American settlers. Then there was Tecumseh. He died in 1813. He was like Mohawk leader Joseph Brant before him. Shawnee leader Tecumseh fought to unify tribes to rally together against American encroachments on Indian territories. Under Tecumseh's leadership, Tecumseh's Confederacy went to war against the United States during Tecumseh's War and the War of 1812, allying themselves with the British. If I recall correctly, he was made a brigadier general by the British. Let me see if he was, if I have that, if that pops up easily. But if I remember correctly, if I remember correctly, he was made a general by the British. But you have to bear with me just a moment. Let's see if I'm just kind of scouting this out. No, I don't see it, but there's something that's it's worth looking into. So now, this is not to be confused with William Tecumseh Sherman, who was a Union officer in the Civil War. That's not the same thing. So anyway, let's go on, and then you can look up things that interest you. Then there's Sacagawea. She died about 1812. She was born in the Shoshone tribe. She was kidnapped as a child by Sioux, later sold to a French-Canadian fur trapper who took her as his bride. She was pregnant with the baby, and then with the baby in tow, she traveled the western half of the United States with explorers Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, serving as their interpreter and helping to guide them in their journey from St. Louis, Missouri to the Pacific. Then there was Saint Cateri Tekakwitha, who was born in 1656, died in 1680. She is the first Native American canonized as a Roman Catholic saint. She was born to a Mohawk chief and an Algonquin mother, and she was orphaned at 4 when her parents died of smallpox. Finally, today, I will just mention Pocahontas, which you all know. She is a daughter of Powhatan, the chief of the Powhatan people. After marrying Jamestown, Virginia settler John Rolfe and converted to Christianity, she became a celebrity in England, where she was presented as an example of a, quote, civilized savage. That's our history. She died in England, and she and her husband were setting sail to return to Virginia. Now, these are just some people that, some of them I knew about, some of them I didn't. Some of them you knew about, some of them you didn't. I hope it'll spur you to study more. I want to go over next time some of the war chiefs that I haven't done. Like we've done Geronimo, but there are some others that are just fascinating. And like I say, don't forget the Apache Chronicle. It's a pretty interesting book. I really liked it when I was in high school. I read it. So I hope that this encourages you to dig deeper into American history. And I thank you. Bye-bye.